Basil. Basil questioned whether he should leave Anastasia and Jasper alone together after dinner, but they were both adults, and Jasper had given Basil no reason not to trust him. Although returning to the spell tome after he had spent all day on it displeased him, he had to finish it that evening. Celestine had been understanding of his need to focus and had graciously offered to care for time while he worked. Her eye had kept Basil company, relaxing in his room's tall, narrow fireplace as the crackling logs provided a steady background noise throughout multiple turns of the moons until Basil finally finished reviewing the holy words from his memory. The following morning, Basil rose before the others and tested the health barrier. He had needed to cast his diagnostic spell tome to ensure the barrier was working, and, as he had hoped, he had mastered another tome. At first sunrise, he met up with the others and told them the good news. His fellow travelers were wearing their traditional Hogenson garb, and from Basil's perspective, they blended in perfectly. When he saw Anastasia, she looked ill again, but before he could offer her relief, she rejected his help. "How come you're not hungover?" she grumbled to Jasper. Jasper smiled but didn't answer her question. "Basil, might I see the maps in your pack?" Basil handed the parchment to him. "Hopefully, you'll do a better job the next 4, Myocaster said. Jasper shot him a warning glance and he backed down. "We'll take the Merchant Road up to where it splits off in Sovane, and then we'll keep heading north. It looks like there isn't a defined path, but there are a few towns along the way, and Lemniscate is popular for tourists, so I do not anticipate navigation difficulties." Myocaster tilted his head with attitude. "Lead the way, then." The group followed the Merchant Road for weeks straight. Along the way, many towns had a comparable floating appearance to crusade, although some actually levitated on barriers made from sorcery. Neither Jasper nor Anastasia nor Celestine announced themselves at any of the lords' and ladies' manors they passed. Basil understood why, and it was for the same reason he did not declare himself to the local healers or herbalists. Basil wondered if it was a mistake to snub them. It felt safer to remain anonymous. The group hadn't heard if the Vahantri sought to silence the Crusade's survivors, but they didn't intend to take that risk. There was a distinct difference each time they crossed a weather mage's barrier. Intense heat turned out to be the evil twin to extreme cold. They were each their own beast, and Basil better understood what people in different parts of the world had to endure. With the healing tome mastered, Basil would have next studied Watercress's protective weather barrier tome while he slept, but he hadn't flipped through the pages prior to the Vahantri attack. But at least they had one sort of protective barrier. Every morning, Basil cast the barrier of health, and every day the group members remained healthy. While on the road, as expected, Anastasia and Jasper alternated hunting and meal preparation responsibilities. Basil scavenged for edible plants like amaranth, marigold, and chickpeas. Occasionally, Basil and Celestine would help with the meal preparation, but mostly they raised time together. In a sense, Basil and Celestine had become Time's parents, and Anastasia and Jasper were their parents. Even though Anastasia was only 8 rotations older than Basil, he still viewed her in that role. Myocaster mostly avoided everyone. Basil assumed Myocaster struggled with his loss, and Basil would offer grief counseling if the soldier didn't improve soon. In the evenings after dinner, Anastasia reinstated the training sessions. Basil learned swordplay not just from her, but also from Jasper, and occasionally from Myocaster. Sometimes, Anastasia would teach Basil how to wield the thin knife his master had told him to conceal from everyone, but that everyone knew he had anyway. He had to become accustomed to the feel of the blade in his hand, and he challenged Anastasia, occasionally winning against her. He never won against Jasper, but neither did she. Without revealing his secret defensive enchantment surrounding his skin, Anastasia tested out wooden sticks, iron rods, and any other material she could against it. It held against all she tried, but Basil pretended to take injury from her blows to avoid suspicion. After needlessly casting a few healing spells, he expected the charade would hold up. During his practice sessions, Celestine taught Time philosophy and history, rounding out Basil's lessons on the science of healing magic and the ancient language. His lessons with the young apprentice progressed gradually. Time frequently forgot words, ideas, and entire concepts, so it was a new test of patience for Basil to remind him constantly. He wished he had asked Time for permission to receive Master Watercress's neurological enchantment before they parted. But, again, he hadn't. One evening, after they re-entered Wojet to avoid a pocket of quicksand in Sovane, Anates approached him. "Walk with me?" "Sure." They had moved north enough into Wojet that they'd entered the Sand Dune Mountains, and Basil had greatly enjoyed playing with the sand as he paced, kicking it and watching it fall. This wasn't time to play, though. "Did you want to talk about something?" Basil asked. Anates plopped into the sand. "Brucite?" They hadn't spoken a word about him. In part, Basil worried remembering him would distress her, but he was glad she was finally broaching the subject. He had wanted to talk to her about Telios too, but he had relied on Celestine for those conversations instead. For now, he'd be happy speaking of Brucite. "I miss him." Basil sat next to her. "He was our oaf." Anates smiled thinly. "Did Time tell you that he offered me the knives Brucite had given him?" "No," Basil said. "I can't believe he'd offer them. He practices with them religiously as soon as we make camp. What would he do without them?" He was so funny when he said it. Something about how he wouldn't mind going back to having 16 things again. I could tell it tore at him even to suggest it. But he thought it would help me feel better. I told him that Brucite bought them specifically for him, and that he should cherish them for that reason. That Brucite wouldn't want me to take them. I've never seen Time so relieved. She huffed. "You got lucky with him." The thought of the apprentice's selflessness forced a smile from Basil. "I did, but we're talking about Brucite," Basil reminded her. "Yes, you're right. Brucite was our oaf. I miss him too." She took a deep breath, as though gathering the courage to say what had been boiling in her mind over their journey. "But it feels like this was the second time we lost him." Basil waited for her to continue. She played with the fraying edge of her linen wrap. "After he poisoned himself, I internalized his death then. I suppose it made it easier to accept this next time because I had had such a hard time believing he had survived." Her mouth tightened into a frown. "What do you think he's doing right now? As a ghost? Has he returned home like Teleost? Is he in the Heliotrope Forest graveyard, waiting for us to come and say goodbye so he'll have closure?" "He might be finding his family, but I know Master Watercress said that the beginning of a ghost's existence could be disorienting. He told me that they could find a purpose to focus on and gain their bearings, but it doesn't always happen. Back in Sithaka, after someone passed, he would often talk their ghosts down from hysterics and give them options on what their purpose could be in death. He spent a good deal of time with the dead, often when I was playing with friends or visiting my parents. He said that they have their own sense of community." "You think Brucite will have purpose and community then?" she asked. "Yes, he will." Basil knew those two factors were some of the most important to her, and it was why he had mentioned them specifically. Similarly, he avoided describing the feeling of dying that he had endured with so many of his patients following the Rhine Viaduct disaster. He would not burden her with such knowledge. It would bring her no comfort to understand the terror they had probably experienced as their bodies failed to sustain their spirits. Instead, Basil chose another subject that might bring her comfort. "You both met Ether, right?" "We did. What does that have to do with anything?" "You will probably be judged in the same collective then. Assuming Ether is the Arkspawn, then whether he sends you to the Accursed Ruins or the Blessed Lands, you'll at least go to the same place. Even if you don't see each other as ghosts, you'll be together again in death." Anates gave him a weak smile, but her brows were bent. "I wonder if I'll live to be old, or if I'll die young as he did. Will his ghost even recognize mine? Will I remember his face if it's been 50 rotations or more?" "Even if you forget his face, you'll still find him. He fell in love with you without even seeing your face, right? He knew you in other ways. You'll remember him. At the very least, he'll remember you." Anates squeezed her eyes shut, but tears fell anyway. Basil scooted over to hug her from the side. "Brucite and Teleost have probably met up by now. They'll keep each other company on the long journey home. They can support one another as they visit their families." She wiped her cheeks dry. "Neither will become a poltergeist or a specter or anything?" "They were not lost in that way." A moment passed, and Basil asked, "Is everything all right between you and Jasper?" She huffed and shook her head. Fine. Yeah, he's been perfect. Exactly what I needed. That's an odd answer, but at least Jasper isn't making unwanted passes at her so soon after Bruceite's death. What do you mean? When I first got seasick, I knew I needed help, but I couldn't ask for it. Jasper gave me an out by ordering me to get better. After that, I needed company, but couldn't drag myself to ask for it. He forced me to socialize. Even when we were in Crusade, I needed exercise, and he pushed me to do it. Everything I knew I should be doing, he ensured I did, and I've been grateful. I've been feeling a lot better because of it. I might have wallowed in self-pity for a long time if he hadn't reminded me that there's still a life out here to live. Why do you think it was so hard for you to do those things on your own? Basil sensed she still might need some psychological healing. Different reasons for each. I suppose losing Bruceite hurt my self-confidence. Why would that be? She looked at him with the same wariness she had the first time he had treated her knee injury in her tent. Deep down, I feared Bruceite was the only one who actually wanted me around. Losing him meant that I lost my connection to the friend group. I didn't have the courage to see for myself whether that hunch was right. Basil tightened his hug. We're friends, don't you forget. We established that a long time ago, and our friendship is irrelevant to anything related to Bruceite. Except when he thought we were sneaking around behind his back. She laughed at the innocent misunderstanding. Can you make a sound barrier? Basil didn't understand why she wanted it, but he did. Under the protection of the spell, she told him, I also felt guilty. About what? I became infatuated with Jasper. It's not so abnormal to find an outlet for romantic feelings before Bruceite died. Oh. Basil was saddened at that. I didn't know I could be interested in two different people at the same time, but then it happened. I tried my best to shut out the disloyal feelings. If I ignored them for long enough, we'd eventually split from Jasper, and they'd go away with him. But that didn't happen. Nope, and now they've gotten stronger. Her voice edged on breaking. I can imagine, especially after he helped you through your hardships. I'm sorry I didn't try to help more. I would have told you to leave me alone if you had. I know myself too well. The only reason Jasper could help me was because I wanted him to. Maybe it's not so bad then. If you had only had feelings for Bruceite, as you said earlier, you might still be wallowing. Wouldn't that be better than feeling like I betrayed him? You feel like you betrayed Bruceite just because of your feelings? You can't help who you're physiologically attracted to. I asked Jasper to sleep with me in Crusade. Oh. In all of Master Watercress's teachings, he never taught me how to give counsel for something like this. You don't need to look so concerned. He rejected me. I know I'm awful. I was ready to take Bruceite as my mate, and I threw him aside like he was nothing to me. If he were nothing to you, you wouldn't feel guilty. Basil didn't judge her. He was stunned Jasper had rejected her offer, but Basil respected him a little more for that. What do I do? She palmed her eyes to remove her tears and reduce the tension headache she was probably building. Before Celestine, I was infatuated with someone who I had known since childhood, who I had grown up with, and who could not care less about me. She was too busy fawning over Sithica's spawn. It took me a turn of the moons to move on, and she didn't even return my feelings. I can't imagine how much more it would have hurt if we were both in love with one another, as you and Bruceite were. It would likely take more than a turn of the moons. He explained his opinion as carefully as he could. She moved her hands to her forehead and stared at the sand. Everyone is different, though. Everyone has different rates of healing. Some people are fast healers and some are slow. But you are a fighter in every way. She looked at him through her fingers. He tried his best to be encouraging. I've watched you running over the dunes. You struggle to reach the top, but once you do, you keep going. You push past the crest, leveraging running forms and the earth's curves to your benefit. Even with the sand falling out beneath your feet, you always keep going, and you will keep going now. Even if you need to exercise extra mental strength or get creative on how to do it, even if it takes time to realize what it is you generally want to do, take your time, but keep moving forward. How have you gotten through this so well? I'm ashamed I haven't mourned for them more. Since I didn't meet either, I wonder if aldehyde or ketone will chastise me for it later, when one of them review my life. But It hurts a little differently every day. Each of them was just suddenly gone, and I haven't fully internalized the reality. It hits in the quiet of night where Bruceite's songs would have been. Or on the road when Teleost would have made a joke, but instead silence throbs. It's in the little moments, the reminders that we'll never have them again. That's when it's hardest. But they come and go, and they're manageable that way. Besides, I have Celestine and Time to help me, and I have you. I'm even growing fonder of Jasper, too. Thank you, Basil. Anytime. He stood and extended a hand down to help her up, and she accepted it. Their group arrived at Lemniscate's cave, exhausted and running out of water. Despite Jasper's foresight in readying their provisions, nothing could have prepared them for the stores they'd need when crossing the desert. Horai was the only one who took the weather in stride. On the hottest days, they maintained a humanoid flame form effortlessly. Atop the Oracle's cave, a magpie studied the waiting crowd below. A dozen people waited for their chance to enter, and their group joined the line. A trio of older women waited ahead of Basil and his companions. The youngest of the women turned to make conversation. She had soft features, and she cooed at Basil. "You are all so young to be making such a journey. I can't imagine crossing the desert at your age." "We're seasoned travelers," Jasper said with a charismatic smile. "Oh? Where else have you been?" "We spent some time in Vetron and Gia." Basil let Jasper do the talking. He assumed he might ruin their cover if he misspoke. "You all are suckers for shit weather," an older woman said. Her features were sharp and her expression unfriendly. The original woman said, "I'm from Gia, but I haven't been there in rotations. How is it?" "Still frozen." Jasper maintained his humorous tone flawlessly. "Diaspora is still a prick," Malcaster said. Jasper didn't glare at him, but when he turned to him, Basil bet he wanted to. They weren't trying to stand out or make enemies. The soft-featured woman laughed. "He's the reason I left." "What are you here for?" Malcaster asked, cozying up to the woman. "I was once an artist. Now I'm trying to find what my new career path should be and where I should settle." The other women in her group looked displeased that she had started the conversation, and it was then that Basil realized the third one was blind. He wished he could have offered to cure her blindness, but he knew of no tome for that. "How about you all? What would you like to learn from Lemniscate?" "It's different for each of us. Personally, I'd like to know where my heart is going next." Malcaster eyed the stranger like he meant her. Basil wished he could leave the line and come back later. If Malcaster was flirting with the woman to pass the time, Basil didn't want to listen. To drown it out, Basil spoke with Time. "I'm so excited to finally meet the Oracle," Time said. "I never received a chance before, even though I've passed this way many times. I might get a prophecy for myself for a change." "Have you wanted one?" Time nodded. "They are fun, especially when good fortune is ahead." "I'm sure Lemniscate will give you good tidings. You've got a bright future ahead of you." Basil ruffled Time's curly copper hair. It had grown considerably since they'd first met. Then, Basil continued with their lesson on how to prevent someone from bleeding out after an incision. When it was their group's turn to go, Jasper first entered the cavern. The women who had entered before them whispered about their own prophecies fervently as they left the immediate area, but Basil couldn't understand them. The soft-featured woman stole frequent glances back to their group. Basil wondered if she would stick around and ask Malcaster about his reading. If so, Basil feared she would become a problem for their race back to Vetron. When Jasper emerged from the cave, he nodded to Basil. Basil cast the sound barrier. "The master of illusions will silence the fake. The master of knowledge will learn the truth and claim it all. The master of the hunt will seize happiness. The master of structure has the vital key to collapse the artifice. The master of music will entice lost hearts. The master of forms will take the enemy's guise to change the tide. The master of cuisine will fill empty plates. The master of space will combine arts to prevent a deadly blockage. The mistaken will learn his name. He will struggle from his master's choice to simply survive." Jasper glanced between them as he recited Lemniscate's fortune. "Is the mistaken the title of the real Archspawn? If ether isn't it?" Time asked. Makes sense to me. Malcaster pushed forward. Let's see if I can get some information Citrine can use. He disappeared into the cave soon after. Jasper and Anatase exchanged a look. Who do the masters refer to? Sorcerer masters? Basil asked. They don't necessarily have to be. Jasper scratched at the base of his skull while puzzling it over. It could probably be a master of anything. What do you make of the Master of Knowledge bit? What does it even mean to claim it all? Basil's eyebrows knit together. Claim all of what? I don't know. It seems like the Master of Knowledge gets a better outcome than most of the others, though, Anate said. But I can't say that any of the roles in the prophecy are obvious. What does an artifice matter? What does it mean to be a master of forms? It doesn't make any sense, Basil said. It does make sense. Time had a faraway look in his eyes. It's just not obvious yet. I'm certain more will be revealed. I wager I'll have additional visions tied to your readings as these events unravel. Anatase gave Time a pitying look, and Basil knew how burdensome the weight of the prophecies was, especially when it involved their friends' destinies. Then Malcaster emerged from the cave, clearly distraught. What happened? Jasper asked once Malcaster entered the sound barrier again. I don't want to talk about it. Anatase raised an eyebrow. It was a personal one. Lemniscate didn't tell me anything. What did the Oracle tell you? Jasper pressed. Malcaster huffed and shot Jasper a dirty look. In chains you will meet your end, your body bloodied, broken, bent. You shall suffer until you have nothing left to feel. You will cry like a crow, and like a pig you will squeal. Happy? Malcaster asked after he finished. No, it doesn't help us. I'll go next. Anatase stalked into the cave. While they waited for her, Jasper unsuccessfully fought off a smirk. Has Malcaster's fate pleased Jasper? Basil hadn't recalled a spat between the men earlier. Mine also doesn't help us. If I had to tell mine, then you have to tell yours, Malcaster said. Anatase shook her head. Beast to confront demon, but curses will fly both ways. Unless the gemstone purifies, then the betrayed will bray. Shit, that makes the least sense yet, Malcaster said. Time looked like he wanted to serve as a defense for the mystical art, but Celestine placed a hand on his shoulder as a signal to let it go. Who next? Anatase asked, looking between Celestine, Time, and Basil. I will go, Celestine said as Anatase was about to speak again. After she left, Anatase sent Basil a glance. What? You're the one who's supposed to be here. You should have gone next. Basil shrugged. Yeah, isn't it against the rules to be doing a secret mission for Citrine, and the next queen of Ikasu is with us, overhearing everything? Malcaster asked. She's not going to do anything against us, Basil said. It's not like it matters much anyway. Lemniscate isn't handing out invasion plans of Ikasu, and both their regional armies were just massacred, so neither of them will be doing any fighting near term, Anatase said. I suppose, Malcaster said. But if I end up in a dungeon being tortured because of Celestine, then Basil, I'm gonna haunt the fuck out of you as a ghost. Why me? She's here because of you. Celestine emerged from the cave. As soon as Malcaster spotted her, he shut his mouth. How was it? Jasper asked. I did not receive a reading. Then what were you doing in there? Malcaster narrowed his eyes in suspicion. We chatted about the weather. The weather? He sneered. Basil started. Time interrupted Basil's interruption. I'm going next. I want to see what it's like, and I bet I can ask specifically what we need to know. Before Basil could react, Time rushed off into the cave. Given the long-standing rule that only one person was allowed in the cave at a time, Basil did not chase after Time once he crossed beyond the mouth. Celestine smiled sweetly at Malcaster. They waited for a long time, while Time spoke with Lemniscate. The others behind them became restless, but they ignored them. Basil wished he had gone before Time. It made sense that an oracle and a prophet would have much to discuss. During the wait, Jasper pulled out the maps to track their journey back to Vetron. How long will it take the 6 of us? Malcaster asked while stretching. About 2 turns of the moons, roughly 80 days, Jasper said. It'll take just as long to get back? Malcaster arched his back and leaned to the side. It took 4 turns to get here, Anatase corrected. But we won't have thousands of people or oxen carts slowing us down, Malcaster sat within the sound barrier, playing with the sand between his legs. Jasper nodded. I've accounted for that. We're also going to be taking as straight a shot as possible, without long detours, to resupply an entire crusade party. Malcaster lay back dramatically in protest. How are we traveling across Devore in a straight shot? Are we hiring a weather mage to protect us? I'll take care of it. Jasper didn't elaborate. If we're skimping on gem just to... Anate snapped. We're prioritizing the mission. How Jasper handles our financials to serve it best is his call. If we can hire the greatest transportation mage in the realm to send the 6 of us back to Vetron instantly, we'd save the gem for that. If sailing from Moja to Gia and walking back is the straightest shot we can afford, then we'll do that. Whatever it comes down to, we live with it. But if you want to spend your own gem to speed up the trip, go ahead. You've profited plenty off the furs that King Citrine provided for you. That should be enough to at least make it to Ikazu, if not all the way home. You should be grateful that Jasper didn't insist on using those stones to finance all of our inn-stays, you cheap bastard. Anates and Malcaster glared at each other with crossed arms. Anates' hidden hand tickled the handle of one of her sheathed blades. Jasper placed himself between the two of them, presumably to prevent a fight. Basil hadn't even thought about the implications of Malcaster's alleged fur trade, but if what Anates said was valid, he agreed with her. Now wasn't the time to add his opinion, but he'd mention it later when they were under a different sound barrier. To distract from the simmering rift, Time returned, smiling. How'd it go? Basil asked. We had a great conversation. I asked directly about the fate of Vetron, and Lemniscate told me, the gleaming kingdom will stand, driving in countless rotations to come, protected by the ruler of the land. Sounds like a fairly straightforward prophecy to me. Citrine will be pleased. Malcaster stood at the update. Lemniscate also confirmed my identity as a prophet, and that there was another in our group who had not known theirs. Time turned to Basil warily. Does Lemniscate mean me? You should go now. Time stared at Basil until he turned toward the cave. Anates looked at him, and then to Jasper. What is she thinking? As Basil entered the Oracle's cave, he hoped he might finally learn his master's secret after all this time. A haze hung in the air, and sun's light seeped into the main chamber from different directions. It gave a disorienting feel, but Basil focused on the tiny bandage-wrapped creature before him. In life, Lemniscate had lived as a prophet during the First Age, and vowed to help those who sought counsel. Now, they looked like a stiff, immovable object, forever stuck in a meditative position. Shadows in the bandages marked where the eyes would have been, and air passed through a small round hole, cut into the covering at the mouth, but the oracle otherwise remained motionless. Basil approached the creature, revered by harpies and humans alike.
Hello, Basil of Sithica of the 13th Age.
It greeted with a light, raspy voice. Hello, Lemniscate of the First Age, Basil said. It was unknown where the oracle had originated from. Can I ask you something?
About your future?
First, about times.
What would you like to know?
Do you like being an oracle? After all these ages, do you regret your decision to become one after death? Or does this existence make you happy?
Why do you ask this?
I'm his mentor. It's my job to guide him in life. I would also like to provide him wisdom in death, but I have minimal expertise in the subject myself. You and Hippopody are the only ones I can ask for help in that regard.
You want to guide another when you are blind.
I want to do the best I can for him.
You first need to understand yourself.
He mentioned that one of us was lost. Is that me?
It is.
How do I find my way? Basil wasn't sure what he could do to improve his situation.
I will tell you.
Thank you.
I have told Time what he needs to know. His decision will be easy. Yours will not.
What decision will I have? Basil didn't understand. Prophets could choose to die, or live on as an oracle. Basil would have no such option. He was certainly not a prophet.
There have been numerous signs, your careful concentration in the presence of sorcerers, your prevention from attending the Mages' College, your frightening of Master Poppy of Ikasu of the 13th Age from the sight of you. You truly do not understand.
The oracle could not communicate via gestures, but Basil imagined Lemniscate shaking their head at him. Basil was keenly aware of all those factors, but still didn't understand what the oracle was telling him. My master had a secret, but...
The son of 2 slaves, the healing mage, will be marked as the mistaken, to preside over the 13th age. An invested angel and demon will battle over his outcome, to sway the fates, to alter his leaning.
Basil still did not understand until he considered Time's prior comment about the mistaken being the name of their age's archspawn. And then it all made sense. His entire reality shifted. He felt doltish for not figuring it out on his own. In hindsight, it was so obvious. It explained Hirai, his legendary animal companion. That was what all the trouble with Telios posing as Basil and Athlia was for. That was what the concern with Master Jasmine was over. That was why Poppy had looked at him the way she had. That was why his master always knew his emotional state. His phantom wings gave him away. He considered everything that being the Archspawn insinuated. He would have a monumental decision in death. Lemniscate was right, and he wasn't prepared to make it. The longer the reality sunk in, the worse Basil felt. A punch to the gut would have been preferable to the sinking dread descending upon him. I'll be responsible for judging the immortal fates of everyone I've ever met, and many more. The high priest hadn't trained Basil. He barely had a few conversations with Faith before she died. Piety must have known. There was no way a demon worshipper would go up to a stranger and spew their philosophies to them otherwise. But Piety hadn't told me of my identity, as Master Watercress hadn't. Perhaps it was something I needed to learn on my own. But I didn't learn it on my own. Lemniscate had to force the truth in my oblivious face. And that's because deep down, I didn't want to know it. I don't want to be the Archspawn, no matter how much I wished for it back in Sithika just to impress Salafin. I don't want to be responsible for the suffering or salvation of millions of souls upon their collective deaths, and my own. Doubt and fury overrode any lingering sensations of awe and clarity. I'm not ready. I need help to handle this burden, and I don't have it. I've been kept from it, purposefully, for rotations. If Master Watercress had just explained it, I would have understood why it was vital to hide away when visitors came to Sithika. I would have known why I needed to concentrate when in the presence of sorcerers. I would have asked to learn about angels and demons and our religion. By Mlao's horns, I was practically a non-believer before the crusade began. The Archspawn didn't even believe in his own future for most of his life. That irony burned within him. He couldn't believe his master had prepared him so well for life, but had purposefully left out the most critical guidance regarding his death. Most importantly, his master hadn't trusted him enough to tell him. He had purposefully lied to everyone and hidden him away from the world to cover up his secret. Watercress would never have allowed him to go to the Mage's College, for Basil would have been recognized in an instant. There was so much to consider, and each new idea infuriated him further. Before the oracle that had told him his truth, Basil imagined his phantom wings turning into long, damning demon size, stretching the length of his back. This has been The Archcrusade, Tome 1, The Archspawn, Pilgrimage and Prophecies, by K.M. Hogenson. The story continues in The Archcrusade Tome 2, The Archangel, Magic and Religion.